Welcome to Talking Meds on the PrescQIPP podcast, engaging conversations about medicines-related dilemmas. I'm your host, Jonathan Underhill. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Talking Meds. I'm your host, Jonathan Underhill. I'm joined today by Sundus Jawad, and this is the first in a series of podcasts we're going to be doing called Caring About Medicines in Care Homes with Sundus and Jonathan. So it's all about care homes and our precious older people who live in care homes and what we can do to look after their medicines in the best way. So Sundus, I've known for a number of years now. She is a highly experienced clinical pharmacist with over 25 years experience, beginning in community pharmacy and then working in other settings. Her career's mostly been in primary care as a medicines optimization pharmacist, working with GP practices and care homes, etc. She's a qualified independent prescriber. She has a specialist level experience in frailty, polypharmacy, and the care of older people. And she works now managing a small team of pharmacy professionals responsible for medicines optimization in social care and care homes in NHS Frimley. Fabulous Frimley, as Roy Lilly often calls it, doesn't he? She's done some fantastic projects during her career, spearheaded the Prime Minister's Dementia Challenge project that got quite a lot of acclaim. And I know she's particularly proud of a project that she led on good hydration in care homes, which was then expanded by NHS England into a national hydration toolkit in care homes. I think hydration is one of those issues that we may well come across in the series. Something that often gets forgotten when we're looking after people in care homes. She's got a very busy life and a very busy career, her Sundus. She's a fellow of the Royal Pharmaceutical Society. She was recently elected chair of the National Pharmacy Care Home faculty as well. I mentioned she's a NICE Medicines and Prescribing Associate. And she's also, I don't know how she fits it all in, by the way. She's also doing a fellowship with the NIHR on a clinician career progression program at the University of Oxford. Sundus, welcome. Lovely to see you. You've had a busy time of it, haven't you, in terms of your career and where you are so far? Was there anything I missed?
No, I think you covered all of it there, Jonathan. Yeah, it's good to be busy.
Absolutely. So just expand on what I just said about your career so far, and what was it that attracted you to go into working with people in care homes?
Yeah, so for me, it's really quite a personal thing, actually. So actually started working in community pharmacy when I was 16 as a Saturday girl. And soon after I started, I was kind of given some responsibility to help make some dosset boxes or fill nomad trays. And then I knew they went somewhere because they were delivered. And when I found out that they were delivered to a care home, once or twice I got asked to help with the delivery. Then I learned to drive, and then I started delivering the nomad trays to the care home. And I kind of really intrigued. I never went really beyond the kind of reception door, handed over, I got them to sign, and that was it. But I'm, really intrigued what goes on in this care home. And I suppose that intrigue for me came because I never grew up with my grandparents or any older people around me, actually. So, it was really, really intriguing, all these older people. How do they behave? What do they do? How do they live? What are they doing in this care home? And in my culture as well, actually, very rare you'd see older people being cared for outside of their family home. So, more multi-generational families living in a big home is what we'd see. So yeah, lots of intrigue. It was more intrigue, and then later when I qualified and had an opportunity to start working with care homes, and that was thanks to Carol Roberts, actually, because I was working for her at the time, and she said, "Oh, there's a lot of care homes in this area, and there's a lot of medicines that are prescribed for this patient group. We know that these medicines are being administered, but we don't know much about how they're being managed, and how, if they're being reviewed, it would be really good to find out, could you go and just do a kind of exploration activity as to what happens when all these medicines, um, you know, enter the care home. And that's kind of where my journey began.
Yeah, fascinating. I think lots of pharmacists I speak to have got a personal reason why they go into a particular sector. We were talking about the management of asthma in a previous episode, and there's a personal story there for why people enter a particular field. So that doesn't surprise me that it's personal. And I also think there's something that's that there's an unmet need in care homes around medicines use. Maybe a little bit better now than it was, but I remember 10, 15 years ago, care homes, as you say, were places where people didn't really look in terms of medicines optimization, medicines management. It was a bit of a Cinderella service, so called, where there wasn't a lot of investment, there wasn't a lot of activity, and a lot of people were just forgotten about, if I'm being blunt. And that isn't the case anymore. There's a whole raft of teams who are really, really interested in making sure that we look after people in care homes properly. Not only from a medicines optimization point of view, but just so that people have got good lives towards the end of their lives. It's only right and proper, really. So uh, this is probably going to be a difficult one for you to answer because I'm sure you don't have a typical day. I'm sure it's very varied. But I'm going to ask it anyway. What would a typical day look like for you, Sundus? What sort of things would you come across in your working week, let's say?
Yeah, so in a working week, it could range from a kind of prescribing query from a GP. It could be a query from care home staff themselves. Sometimes they're worried because they think, oh, not had this before. That the medicine doesn't look like it used to last month. It's the right label, it's the right paperwork, but actually the box looks different or something's not quite right. Could you please help us check this? Sometimes it's a concern. There's actually maybe some serious concerns in the home. Maybe other partners in the system have come across these, or even the care home might have, reported something that they're concerned about. And then, there's a kind of an ask for help to go in and support. Sometimes these can be quite serious concerns. Sometimes there has been, unfortunately, a death, and it's following up as to, you know, what could have caused this, or is our medicines linked to the cause? So sometimes, yeah, concerns, medicines concerns. Um, Sometimes it's just our routine work, which is just, I suppose, medication management audit work, safety audits. Sometimes it's medication review. And, that's been the bulk of, I suppose, my work on a personal level over the last 20 plus years working with care homes. It's been reviewing medicines and just checking that they're appropriate and that, that people are getting the most out of them.
Sure, yeah. So I mean, there's a lot in there, isn't there? The sort of the structured medication review, the formal medication review, and then the informal medication review as well. Just checking to see whether somebody's taking their medicines as they should be. Um, Checking whether the medicines are still wanted and it's something that the person still wants to take. We hear that this all the time, don't we? And we talked about that a lot in the series with Lucy Pollock about um, medicines in older people. Just making sure that it's still something that's appropriate for that person at that point in time. It may well have been appropriate 2 years ago, but isn't appropriate now. Um, yeah, I mean, I think the other so there's some sort of general principles here about looking after older people, but specifically within a care home setting, what are the specific challenges you think within care home settings that perhaps you don't always come across in the community?
Yeah, so just going back to what you said earlier, I suppose one of the things that isn't a challenge is medicine's adherence. Medicine's adherence is actually very good, usually in a care home. So that's something also to be mindful of because maybe, that resident wasn't taking their medicines when they were at home, and now they've come to the care home, all of a sudden the medicines are being administered every day at every time. And actually, that in itself can cause a problem, because their bodies got used to taking less, and now they're taking more than what they were used to. So it's, that's why it's a really good time to do a review when somebody first comes to a care home. The challenges that I've come across in the past, and I think really one of the earliest challenges that I came across was medicines waste. I mean, it was huge, particularly 20 years ago. I remember every single care home that I went into had this thing called end of cycle, um, disposal. So at the end of every 28 days, when the new medicines arrived, they would just dispose of everything that they had, even if it was unopened, even if it wasn't neat, even if it was PRN, if it wasn't used that month, still sealed. They would just get rid of everything, reorder everything, and restock the medicines room. Huge amounts of waste. And in their mind, it was because they believed that this would be the safest way to order and stock medicines, and a safer process in their mind. So this took years really for us to see that kind of change in the care sector. So today, 20 plus years on, we've definitely seen a change. We've got really good practices in some care homes where they do check stock before they order. They understand that things can be you know moved over to the next cycle, the next 28 days, so moved forward, and so on. So that medicines waste is I think the biggest one that most people would have come across in their career if they've been working with care homes. Medicine safety is the other one, and that's because we've got lots of polypharmacy in care homes. We know that that's where most polypharmacy prescribing takes place. Care home residents average of approximately 6 to 7 medicines per person. So, and we know that the more medicines somebody takes, the more likely they are to experience adverse effects, more likely they are to experience medication errors, or it becomes difficult for the staff, because if you think about it, if you've got a care home with 100 beds, and that everybody's prescribed an average of 7 medicines, that's 700 medicines to manage every day, and you could be administering those 700 medicines 2 or 3 times a day. So the likelihood of medication error or problems increases with polypharmacy. So that's something to really, really factor in when you work with care homes. So medicine safety is a really, really important part of the work. I know you mentioned earlier in the introduction about some of the work that I've done with our dementia patients. So the review of antipsychotics is that was quite a big eye opener for me as a clinical pharmacist, as to how medicines can sometimes be used to manage challenging behaviors. And sometimes it's not even challenging behaviors. It's because um, people don't sleep because of their condition. And instead of exploring why, or what other alternatives, what other alternative approaches can we use, people resort to medication. And I think, for me, what I've learned is that the care sector, they really, that they are really oblivious, I think, in some cases, to the risks, to the safety issues around medicines usage. So, we have a really important part to play as care home pharmacy professionals in making them aware of those safety issues. And I know definitely from my experience with the antipsychotics and dementia work that we've done in the past, where we provided training to care staff, they were some of them are absolutely horrified when we told them what the risks were, that, increased risk of stroke and death. And we now know there are more, recently it's been reported there are even more risks. So staff are usually absolutely horrified when you tell them about these risks, and they want to do something better for the people in their care.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's something that comes across to me loud and clear, that I don't know anyone who works either in health or social care doesn't come to work wanting to do the best job possible that they can. And it's about us enabling them to do that. And around medicines, as you say, there are certain things that where education can be really, really helpful. So the themes we're going to explore in this series, the importance of the multidisciplinary team and appropriate skill mix and training for them and the role of pharmacists within that. We'll talk about medication errors. We'll talk about medication safety. I'm sure we'll get on to things like SIP feeds and nutrition, and we'll talk about appropriate hydration as well. And the other thing I think we'll get onto as well is the behavioural aspects of people in care homes, whether it's people with learning difficulties or learning disabilities, or indeed where people have dementia, and about the appropriate use there. And I know you've got some great stories and anecdotes that go with that, because it's the stories that are really important for people in terms of education, aren't they? Just in terms of the so just to finish off this introductory episode, and just in terms of if there's people out there who are thinking, I wouldn't mind a career in care homes, so to be a care homes pharmacist or a care homes pharmacy technician or whatever. Well, I guess the first thing is, what are the key documents and guidance that you would say to people? You need to read these if you want to do this, and this is the sort of things that really help me do my job.
Yeah, so it depends, I suppose, in terms of the clinical work, you would definitely want to become very familiar with guidance. So nice guidance, clinical knowledge summaries were a really, really important part of my clinical work in my early years. I think I had, the web page open all day, every day. CQC guidance, really important as well. And that is updated regularly. Sometimes I've been caught out and thought, oh gosh, that was updated a few months ago. I hadn't realized this. And so do keep an eye on the CQC medicines information web notes and the web page there. There's some really great mythbusters as well on the CQC web page. And also really important is the deprescribing tool. So you stop, start, and all the Welsh polypharmacy guidance and deprescribing tool. This the Scottish polypharmacy resources. There's so many out there now. Really, it's difficult to remember and list them all. But you will become you will kind of really get used to one, or you become familiar with one, and then there's one that you get attracted to, and you end up using one or two resources, deprescribing resources that you feel work for you. And then with the guidance, and obviously with your resident, it all depends. You can have all of these resources and all of the kind of information and documents that you need to do your role, but actually without your resident really guiding you, it's going to be meaningless. So have those ready, have your documents and your guidance ready, but I think start with your resident and find out about them. So you need to find out about the people that you're going to be reviewing and working with, your patients, and find out a little bit about them, their history, who they are, what's important to them. And that, you can only find that out by really speaking to them. And if they're unable to have a conversation, maybe they have dementia or no longer able to have conversations, then definitely find out from their families and their carers. Look in their care plan. The care plan is really, really a really important document as well.
That's really helpful. We'll put some links to those in the show notes of this so people can access those. We talk about this a lot. Sundus and I also help with the national polypharmacy work that's done through the Health Improvement Network at Wessex. And one of the things we do in the action learning sets is talk about the importance of care home settings and deprescribing tools. And the tools are fine and they're really helpful, but it's also about that person-centered medication review that's really key to all of this. Finding out what matters to the person, or finding out through their carers what matters to the person. It's really at the heart of all of that. I guess there's also the nice guideline on managing medicines and care homes as well, which is really good. There's the repeat prescribing toolkit that the RPS and the RCGP have done that we talked about with Claire Howard, who was the author of that. All of these sort of documents are really helpful for any setting, but in particular a care home setting. So just to finish off the Sundus, if there are people out there who are interested in a career Is it better for hospital pharmacists to do this? Do you need primary care experience? You came from community pharmacy. Is that the best pathway to working as a care homes pharmacist or pharmacy technician?
Yeah, I don't think it really matters. I don't think which part of the pharmacy world you come from. You can still work with care homes. You might need to develop some of your clinical skills, which is what I did over the years. Definitely, nobody's perfect, and um, you know, patients as well, they're different, aren't they? So you might have some really good clinical skills if you came from hospital, but your patient group might have been children or cardiology patients. Whereas, in a care home, it's a completely different cohort of patients. We're talking about older people, those with frailty, very needy, very vulnerable. And so you still need to learn whatever background you come from. I think what I would also recommend is look to find out if you have a care home near you that's going to be opening its doors on Care Home Open Day, and go and visit a few care homes in your area where you live. Just find out a little bit about them, because there are different types of care homes. So we have residential care homes, nursing homes where people's needs, differ to those in residential homes, more needy, lots of nursing care. Sometimes it's, more moderate and severe dementia. More likely to see that in nursing homes. And then we also have care homes which are kind of specialised, looking after people with learning disabilities. So yeah, use that as an opportunity. Care Home Open Day. Go and visit a local care home. Find out what they do. Find out how they have what a typical day is in a care home, and you'll get a feel as to whether or not you would enjoy working with them. Um, what I can definitely say is there isn't a typical pathway, but it is. I would say the best place to be situated is really working with a GP practice that looks after a specific care home, because then you can develop that multidisciplinary kind of team approach to you know caring for those people in the care home that's aligned to the GP practice where you work. So I think that's a really, working with a kind of nominated GP practice is a good place to start, because then you'll have that clinical supervision and support that you might need.
Yeah, brilliant, Sundus. Thanks for that. I mean, what I'm taking from that, I think it's a great idea. Go and visit a care home on an open day, get an idea of what it's like if you've not been in a care home before, to visit. Then that's a great idea. And the other thing I'm taking from that is it's about having a look at your CV, what you've done so far, and then filling in the gaps. So if you've come from community pharmacy, you might have to hone your clinical skills, your kind of in-depth therapeutics. Whereas if you've come from a hospital background or a primary care background, actually it might be more of the person-centered side of things that you need to get better at. Because community pharmacists are really, really good at talking to patients.
Absolutely, yeah, that's a really good point, actually, Jonathan. So, um, yeah, definitely, and the person-centered care element of the work is really, really important, because no two people are the same. I've come across twins in a care home, and each one wants different things. So it is very, very person-centered. You do need to really kind of develop that kind of personalized care approach. So your consultation skills are also really important. Um, yeah.
Well, thanks for that, Sundus. It's been fantastic to talk to you. As I say, we're going to do a series on this where you're going to tell us your anecdotes and stories of a rich career as a care homes pharmacist. So, thanks very much. Join us next time, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Give us your feedback in the email address in the show notes, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Sundus. Bye.